So we're going to be looking a little bit at John's account, the Gospel of John, his account of the resurrection. So if you do want to pull it up, then that is where you need to go. Easter Sunday morning. What are you thinking? What are you doing? On Maundy Thursday, Jesus had shared a meal with his friends. Bread and wine, the Passover meal. Jesus was with his friends. Jesus was there with them, having a relationship with them. They could see him, he could see them. They could talk to him, he could talk to them. But then on Good Friday, as we know, Jesus was crucified, and they took Jesus' body off the cross. And I might need a little bit of help here. They took his body off the cross. They placed him in a tomb. And we're going to have, Joel, can you give your mum a hand? We're going to roll the tomb. And we're going to roll the stone. They took Jesus' body and they laid it on a cross. Could you just... And they rolled the stone over the tomb. That stone cut off, it blocked all that they'd seen of Jesus. They couldn't now talk to Jesus. They couldn't now speak to him. They couldn't now have a meal with him. It blocked the life that they had had with Jesus. A heavy, heavy block separating them and us from Jesus and life with him. What would you think? What would you do on that first Sunday morning of Easter? Full of sadness, no hope left, shocked from what you'd just seen happen for the days before. And so, like Mary, she went to the tomb where Jesus' body had been laid. And as she got there, she would have expected to see the stone as it had been left, the stone rolled over with Jesus inside, separated from him. But as she got there, she noticed something slightly different. She noticed that the stone had moved a little bit. The stone had rolled away slightly. She noticed something that wasn't quite right. What do you think? What do you do in that circumstances? Now Mary, what do you think Mary thought? Mary assumed that someone had stolen the body because inside there was nothing there. And it was quite common for people in those days to rob graves. Why? Because when you buried someone, you put them in all this lovely burial cloth that was worth a lot of money. So Mary doesn't even look inside the tomb. She assumes that Jesus is still in the tomb. And she runs to tell Peter and to tell John what she's found. What do you think? What do you do? Now imagine you're sat in a house. Imagine you're Peter. Now Peter had just denied Jesus. Peter had just blown it with Jesus. Peter's probably sat at home feeling awful, feeling sad because Jesus had died, but feeling guilty because when it really mattered, he'd let Jesus down. And then what about John? John, it says, was the disciple whom Jesus loved. John was the disciple on Good Friday who stayed at the foot of the cross right until the very end. Imagine what it must be like seeing one of your best friends die in such an awful way. And yet John stayed there right to the end. So he's probably sat in his house on Sunday morning just feeling dead inside, no hope left. And suddenly Mary comes in and tells them that the grave has been broken into. What do you think you would think? What do you think you would do? And so they set off on a race Peter and John to see who can get to the grave first. And we read that John got there first. Now, there's a church father from about the 2nd century who actually, as he's commentating on this passage, he says the reason he thinks that John got there first was because Peter had got married, and so Peter, therefore, was eating more food, and so therefore John, as a single person, was fitter. Make of that what you will. It has absolutely no bearing on the Easter story, but I just thought it was quite fun. So John gets there first, and we're going to have a picture up on the screen. This is John, and this is Peter. Peter, the older one, running towards the tomb. Look on their faces. What expression? Were they feeling fearful? Were they confused? Were they excited? We don't know, but I love this picture, because what this picture shows us is it shows John, who was faithful to the very end, like a brilliant disciple, stayed with Jesus till the end. It shows him running, but it also shows Peter running. Peter who'd failed Jesus. And what I love about this picture is it shows us that whether we're faithful or whether we're failing, we can all come to the empty tomb. No matter how you come this morning, full of faith or feeling empty, totally with Jesus all the way, or feeling like you've just let him down, it doesn't matter. The empty tomb, the invitation is for all of us. And we read that John got there first. And inside the tomb, we find that Jesus' body has gone. It's vanished. It isn't there anymore. But what is left is some grave clothes folded neatly. That wouldn't happen in my house, but in my bedroom, I mean. Sorry, I'm not trying to put it on Vicky. That's what I'm saying. If it was down to me, they would not be folded neatly. That's all I'm trying to say. But we read that the grave clothes were folded neatly at the head of where Jesus' body was laid. There's the cloth that had gone over his face. And why does John spend so long? If you look, he spends ages going to these details about how the clothes were folded. Why? Well, because he wants us to know that Jesus' body hadn't been stolen. Jesus is alive. Because if his body had been stolen, people wouldn't just steal a naked body, they'd steal the grave clothes, because that was worth something. So John is telling us that Jesus' body isn't there because he is alive. So what do you see? What do you do? As John sees all this, the empty tomb, it says, John saw and he believed. He saw the empty tomb, he saw the folded grave clothes, and he believed that Jesus must have risen from the dead. As for Peter, unusually, because Peter used to like to talk a lot and would always express what he was thinking, Peter, in this account, doesn't say anything. He sees it, but we don't hear how he reacted. Perhaps Peter was still feeling a little bit guilty. Perhaps Peter just couldn't quite work it out. He saw the empty tomb. He thought there was probably something in it, but he couldn't quite get there. He couldn't quite believe that this was good news yet for him. And then what about Mary? Well, we read that Mary stayed there at the tomb until she heard Jesus behind her say her name, Mary. And when Mary heard Jesus say her name, she knew Jesus was alive. And what I love about this is the empty tomb leaves room for each of us. It leaves room for those of us who hear and see and believe straight away without any doubts. But it also leaves room for those of us who aren't sure that Jesus could really love me, that Jesus could really forgive me, that aren't quite sure, is Jesus really alive or not? And it also leaves room for those of us who just need to hear Jesus say our name. Joel, Felicity, Izzy, Esther. Those of us who just need to hear him say our name. And you see, I'm going to ask you to roll this stone right back now. And you see, the stone wasn't rolled away to let Jesus out. The stone was rolled away to let us in. The stone wasn't rolled away to let Jesus out. The stone was rolled away so that we may come in. And as the stone rolls away, so too does the power of everything that would keep us from God. Everything that you've written on those pieces of paper and a whole lot more. As the stone is rolled away, so too are all those things. Those things no longer stop us from coming to know Jesus, from coming to talk with Jesus, from coming to eat with Jesus, for coming to know the life of Jesus. As the stone rolls away, so do the things that seem hopeless or impossible, or seem that they can't be moved. As the stone moves, all those things are moved away. Do you know, we are the only people in the world who visit the grave of their God to see something that isn't there. We're the only people in the world who visit the grave of our God to see what isn't there. Now, Easter eggs. How many of you have had Easter eggs this morning? How many of you have finished your Easter eggs already this morning? Now, Easter eggs are great. I love an Easter egg. But do you know what the best Easter eggs are? I'm not talking about brands. The best Easter eggs are the ones that as you open them, they're not hollow, but the ones that actually have goodness, have sweets, have treats inside. They are the best Easter eggs because you expect maybe something that's empty, and actually what you find is something that is full of good things to taste, to enjoy, and to discover. And as we crack open those Easter eggs, we don't open those Easter eggs so the sweets can escape. We open those Easter eggs so we can get in and enjoy everything that is there for us to taste. The stone was rolled away, not to let Jesus out, but to invite us in. What do you think? What will you do? You could sit here and you could go away and go, that was nice. Or you could go away and you could respond to that invitation of the empty tomb to come in and eat and meet with Jesus, knowing that everything in your life, everything in the world that's a struggle, that's hard, he has dealt with. He's rolled away those things that you can now come and meet with him. In just a couple of weeks' time, we're going to be running the next Alpha course. Alpha is just a short course, a 9-week course on a Wednesday night, which helps people explore some of these questions about what the empty tomb meant, about why did Jesus die, and about how we can have faith. We're just going to watch a very quick video about that now.
Easter bunny, I guess, first thing comes to my head.
Easter bonnet.
Obviously, Easter eggs, but to be honest, it doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Yesterday I saw Easter eggs in Marks and Spencer's and it's February, and I think that's just bananas.
Like chocolate and like rabbits.
Easter eggs. Great. Yeah, and a 4-day break.
Easter eggs, more Easter eggs than Jesus coming alive or resurrecting, yeah.
I imagine like roast dinners, like spending time with family, lots of like cute little animals and like daffodils, like spring is coming.
A cross in a garden, some eggs, a bunny.
It brings family together, and we know the real meaning of Easter because of Christ. He died on the cross for our sins.
Potentially stories of Jesus from primary school and things like that when I think of Easter.
Yeah, I mean, Easter just is like a holiday from school. It doesn't mean anything else other than that. I mean, let's be real now, like the best thing about Easter is that month before you have Pancake Day.
Poor guy, because that video has been shown nationally. We'd love to invite you, if you don't know Jesus, if you'd love to find out more, we'd love to invite you to Alpha. There's some flyers and some free eggs at the back to tell you more about that. Or if you are a Christian already, in 2 weeks' time, a week on Wednesday, the 27th, we're going to have an Alpha taster evening here. And that's for you to come along and find out what Alpha feels like, looks like, because we think that if you're going to invite someone, you need to have an idea of what you're inviting someone to. And so we'd love you to come, fill this place out. If you're part of St. Swithin's already, we'd love you to come along Wednesday 24th and just taste Alpha. But more information at the door on that one.